Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel. Coming up this afternoon, Governor of Ghana's Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, breaks his silence in the wake of growing calls for his resignation. The Central Bank Governor, Ernest Addison, says his policies are yielding positive results.
We have all established that the very decisive measures put in place by the government and the Bank of Ghana have started yielding results, signaling a faster than expected turnaround, which needs to be sustained.
Well, Ernest Addison making his first appearance. Meanwhile, the NDC's minority in Parliament says it will soon hit the streets again in protest against what they describe as recklessness on the part of the Central Bank Governor. We have details coming up. Also this afternoon, the International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF, has revealed that China and other official creditors of Ghana are yet to reach an agreement on how they intend to restructure the external debts of the country.
We are now at the first review and we need progress, and so we're moving from a general commitment to a specific credit commitment on the terms, specific terms of the debt restructuring. And so what is needed at this stage is an agreement between the government and the OCC on those specific terms.
When will those agreements be signed? We'll get some answers from the finance minister. And we'll continue with our special series on the national dialysis crisis, as the National Health Insurance Authority is setting up a committee to review and assess whether or not the scheme can absorb the cost of dialysis treatment after Joy FM's dialysis crisis series. We have details as the Kolobu Teaching Hospital and its renal unit says it is suffocating under a huge debt of some 4 million Ghana cedis.
Engage with government, with the ministry, with other stakeholders to see how quickly we can, find the resources to advance. Because at the moment we are sitting in a 4 million city hole. If we are to operate at our current capacity, which is about 2,000 dialysis sessions every month, then it means that we are going to accumulate about 961,000 cedis of debt every month.
We'll tell you more about the dialysis crisis, which is all coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse is always brought to you by Global Communities, Digni Lua Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I'm blessed to go join you. This is independent, fearless and credible. We'll get details after these. And thanks for joining us this afternoon. The International Monetary Fund has revealed that China and other official creditors of Ghana are yet to reach an agreement on how they intend to restructure the external debts of the country. Ghana collectively owes external creditors some $30 billion and is seeking to restructure some $10.5 billion. However, Joy News is now learning that the exercise has not been smooth as expected. The International Monetary Fund indicating this afternoon that the external restructuring will be crucial for the country to have an approval from the IMF board, which will then pave way for the release of the next tranche of $600 million. Stefan Rode is the leading member of the IMF mission heading to Ghana and assessing our situation. He's been addressing the press earlier today.
On external creditors and what is needed from the IMF's perspective for us to be able to proceed with the board meeting. We mentioned it several times. We refer to it in the press in the press release. What is really needed at this stage is what we call financing assurances. The nature of those financing assurances, you will remember at the time of the program approval, was a general commitment from the official creditors to provide relief consistent with the program parameters. We are now at the first review and we need progress, and so we're moving from a general commitment to a specific credit commitment on the terms, specific terms of the debt restructuring. And so what is needed at this stage is an agreement between the government and the OCC on those specific terms. For the external commercial creditors, based on the IMF policies, what is needed, it remains the same than what was needed at the time of the program approval, and it's just making sure that there is progress in the sense that the government continues to make good faith efforts with those external commercial creditors to reach to achieve a debt restructuring agreement that will be also consistent with the program parameters.
Well, so that's the position of the IMF on all of this. What's the breakdown of Ghana's level of indebtedness to external creditors? As of now, we will be heading over to Zoom and bringing in one individual who's been watching all of that for us, Isaac Kofi-Adjei, who will be breaking down the figures and giving us a sense of what's happening in terms of what Ghana is seeking to do externally with our debt. Meanwhile, the Finance Ministry has provided some answers to what's happening to our external debt restructuring. Ken Ofori-Atta, the Finance Minister, indicating earlier today that a lot of effort is being put into this to secure an external debt restructuring. Listen.
We've had this history of election over expenditure. But truly, if you look at the targets we have for the fund and the guardrails that we are trying to put together to be able to get these releases that are required, because in June, I think about 300 million will have to release, and then also in December and next year. And then we have the World Bank DPO. So those become resources that we can't compromise. And so if anything at all, that would really create a necessary discipline to make sure that we do that. And then we also would have negotiated with the IPPs and also with the Eurobond investors, and we have the DDEP program in place, and these are things that you cannot miss or default on. I think so all of those will really restrain any other expenditure that we might have gotten into.
We look at the Zambian experience, and some are worried about the timelines here, especially with the external creditors, the bilaterals and the Eurobond as well. Looking at the timelines that you have, November ending, are you sure that you'll be able to reach this MOU and this commitment from these partners before we go to the board to get this next tranche released?
George, we have to. And you've seen us move from July 2022 to where we are, which a good number of people were betting that it will be impossible to get to where we are today. And we are here, and I think that's a testament to government's commitment to make it happen. We did get the financing assurances. I had to go to China, etc. Whatever is required to do, we will do. I'm confident that the OCC will come through in time for the board, the executive board approval in November.
How is government managing the settlement of coupons under the DDEP?
I think the only evidence you have is the amazing thing we did August 22nd, and we'll continue to fulfill that. I think the issue is, that there's reason maybe for some skepticism, but people should begin to look at the new data and honestly confront what has been done, and with your reach to also international media as to what other countries have been unable to do. So we begin to talk, hope and positiveness in that.
Well, so we're asking that question, what's the breakdown of Ghana's level of indebtedness to external creditors? Let's bring in Isaac Kofi-Adjei, who's our data analyst here at Joy News. Isaac, many are asking the question about the breakdown. How much do we owe? How much are we seeking to restructure?
Well, Blessed, if you can hear me, Ghana is currently owing its external creditors $30 billion. We are looking at $30 billion. And of this $30 billion, we are hoping to restructure about 34% of it, which if you estimate should be around $10.5 billion. But as we speak, when you're talking about external debt restructuring, it's somewhat different. It comes with some complexity compared to domestic debt restructuring. For the external debt restructuring, Ghana has to go through some 3 significant stages. The first stage, which will give you probably the staff level agreement and your first disbursement, we are there, which is the agreement stage. The second stage has to do with the agreement stage, for instance. So the first stage is the assurance stage. We passed that stage. The second stage is the agreement stage, and we have the final stage, which is the actual restructuring. And you had the finance minister over there. Since, it's been almost a year since we defaulted on most of our external debt obligations. And I can say that we've not been able to progress from the first stage to the final stage. Discussions and debt talks and negotiations have always been around the assurance stage, which was enough to give us that first tranche, which is the 600 million. Now we are hoping to get an additional tranche of 600 million, and we have to cross the first stage to actual restructuring and actual agreement, which means that we have to have different conditions and meetings with creditors like China, Paris Club. Multilateral loans are not part of this debt arrangement, around $8.8 billion, dollars. But the most important part is the commercial creditors, the Eurobond creditors, that we are owing them close to $13.2 billion, Blizzard.
Why is China of importance to the country? We just heard the finance minister there talk about some efforts to reach out to the Chinese government.
Well, China is very important because if you look at the bilateral loans that we owe, about 5.4 billion, and China is holding about, 43% of the entire bilateral loans. If you compare the amounts we owe China to even the Paris Club, which includes US, UK, we owe them about 2 billion. And China, we owe China 1.9 billion. So it means that China alone as a single country, Ghana is owing them a lot. And if you look at some of the loan agreements that we have with China, for instance, most of them are collateralized loans. So in the 2022 IMF reports, you can see that the IMF stated that we have about 690 million collateralized loans, and all of them is owed to China. And events where we actually default on some of these loans, China will have access to some of our revenue sources, like our mineral revenues, like bauxite and cocoa and other things. So that is why China is important. And you heard George talking about Zambia. Zambia has become a test case for almost all African countries to follow because of the way China has gone around with this Zambia situation. And so when developing countries are going into debt talks with China, they know that China doesn't forgive. They know that China will only agree to restructure when the debt is an interest-free loan. We know the case of Congo when they wanted to restructure their debts with China. China ended up, increasing the maturity period and also increasing interest. So when you are talking to China about debt restructuring, you are not talking about forgiveness or debt relief. Probably they will demand for, an increment in the interest or maturity period. And that is why China is very significant. And over the years from 2000, Ghana has raked in about $5 billion, project loans from China. And so it's been one major source of, foreign liquidity as a country. And that is the reason why they are the most important piece probably in this whole negotiation process, because Paris Club is watching China, Eurobond creditors are watching China. They all want to see what China will do before they make their next move. Pleasure.
Well, we are all watching China. I mean, that's the fact of the matter, not knowing what exactly the Chinese government will decide to do in terms of its debt treatment. Isaac, also joining the conversation is Nicholas Gbana. He's a development economist, also helping us to do some analysis on this. I just stay on briefly with us. Nicholas Gbana, thank you for spending some time with us. So you've heard from the finance minister give the assurance that the target is to meet the external debt restructuring or perhaps the creditor committee agreement by the end of this year. Is that, first of all, a feasible timeline?
Well, I think it's feasible. Let's remember that in these matters, it's not just about the numbers. There's also a lot of diplomatic activity going on behind the scenes. In the case of Ghana, for instance, and even in Zambia, we had an intervention from French President Macron. The Americans are also actively engaged. So I think that on the basis of what has happened with Zambia, the Chinese would not like to hold off for 2.5 years and delay the process like it happened in Zambia. So on that account, given the assessment by the IMF, also given the diplomatic activity happening behind the scenes from the Paris Club, the like of the United States, etc., I'm sure that it's feasible. It's tight, but I'm sure with some additional work and goodwill, it's feasible.
What do you feel there might be a pushback from the investor community, knowing that these are very trying times, geopolitically speaking? The West also doing its own review of what might be happening to the Ghanaian economy. Then you have China being a major factor in determining the way forward. What do you feel might be the pusher of these two different blocks in terms of how they might want to treat their debt to Ghana?
Two things. In the case of China, if you take the case of the Zambian example, some of the debt was structured as commercial debt because lending from China is not coming from one institution. So you have the likes of the Chinese Exim Bank, which is treated as part of the bilateral debt. But there are also other Chinese institutions that are quasi-government, and their debt or lending to Zambia, for instance, were treated as part of the commercial debt, although that debt is guaranteed eventually by the Chinese government. So that is the nuance about it also. So all of China's debt is not necessarily treated as bilateral. We have to really get into the details and see how the negotiations go. Now, on the general bilateral creditors, as usual, the devil is always in the details. Of course, bilateral creditors admit, they agree that we cannot pay back. They will definitely agree in principle that we have to restructure. But the bottom line is, as well as we have a deal quickly or there's a pushback, depends on how the negotiations go. The devil of the details is always that would lead negotiations to drag on. If quickly both parties, the government of Ghana and bilateral creditors, can quickly get to terms on a settlement, then we wouldn't have a long drawn-out process.
I see. Your final comments on the staff level agreement. Are you certain that the board will approve, the next tranche of $600 million for the Republic of Ghana?
Yeah, it's very, very rare to find a staff level agreement which is not approved by the board. So I'm sure that would go through. Of course, the key conditionality for board approval is those external assurances from external creditors. I think that is the main critical matter, which of course the government of Ghana would have to deal with. And if that we're able to get some definite commitments before the board level meeting, I don't see any barrier to approval by the IMF board of the second tranche of $600 million.
Development economist Nicholas Isaac-Agbana joining us there. Isaac Kofi is still with us. Isaac, let's deal with the way forward. This very agreement that's been reached by, the government of Ghana and the staff of the IMF. What are the next processes, and what's the official statement from the IMF indicating to us?
Well, so if you listen to the IMF, both from the staff level and even the IMF boss, you get the sense that the fund is ready, willing, and available to assist Ghana. All we have to do is to make sure we meet the target, which, according to the finance ministry, we've been able to meet most of these targets that we're talking about. And so going forward, we probably are hoping to get that 600 million hits Bank of Ghana's, account by November or by the end of this year, which will bring the total amount under, the first and second tranche to $1.2 billion. By the end of the program, Ghana is hoping to cash in $3 billion. The $3 billion, apart from the $3 billion that IMF is giving us, we are also going to get additional funding from the World Bank, which is going to come as a result of this program. And at the moment, we've seen Ghana's external reserves increase, all because we are getting this, additional liquidity support from the IMF, and we need it. It's a reason why the cedi is stable. It's a reason why, fuel prices have been kept down. It's a reason why, inflation rate is coming down. And it's also the reason why probably some people are saying that even with the projected growth rate of 1.5%, Ghana will go beyond that, because we've seen over 3% growth rate in the first and second quarter.
Right.
And so if you look at the data, it looks as if the IMF program is yielding some sort of result, but it is early days yet. And then we are hoping that, the second tranche will not, delay, because we are going into the festive season where people will demand more, foreign liquidity to do more, imports. And so looking at the data, government is ready, and government is hoping that it will get that additional support from the IMF.
Okay, we keep monitoring the space. Isaac Ofieje joining us with the latest in terms of what the implications are by the figures. In a related development, we're also paying attention to the central bank governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, who's now speaking, saying that his decisive measures and that of the government of Ghana have started yielding some positive results. Now, Dr. Addison is currently facing some intense criticism from the minority in parliament to say that they will no longer work with the central bank governor due to his failure to resign from office on grounds that his monetary policies have collapsed the Ghanaian economy. The minority, which staged a protest earlier this week, says that they will be back on the streets again in demand for the resignation of Dr. Ernest Addison. But in his very first public appearance and making his comments after the minority protest, Dr. Addison stated that measures put in place by his central bank and the government of Ghana are starting to yield results. Listen.
It has been a very comprehensive and collaborative work between the government side and the IMF. And this has made the 2-week mission very successful and fruitful, leading to the staff-level agreement today. We have all established that the very decisive measures put in place by the government and the Bank of Ghana have started yielding results, signaling a faster than expected turnaround, which needs to be sustained as we reset the economy. More specifically, non-food inflation has dropped significantly by 19 percentage points. Food inflation has also come down by about 8 percentage points. Core inflation, which measures underlying inflation, is also decelerating at a fast pace. From the beginning of the year to date, the Bank of Ghana has built reserves of about $650 million instead of the programmed drawdown of $98 million. And this has been boosted by the innovative Gold for Reserves program. And as a result, we have seen relative stability in the exchange rate, depreciating by only 2.5% between February and now.
Well, so the very first comment from the central bank governor just after the minority staged that protest. So exactly what's the demand of the minority, and why would they not cooperate with a man who says that his policies are yielding positive results? Joining us in studio now is Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, Tamale Central MP, and also a member of the Public Accounts Committee. It's been a while. Grateful that you're joining us. It's good to see you.
Beautiful jacket or suit, I'll call it.
But you know, probably it's an indication of the economy, I guess.
It could also be pretentious.
Oh, I see. That's just by the way. So let's get to why the minority is making this plea to the central bank governor to leave office. He says, first of all, that he's not leaving office, and now he's indicating that the policies that he's put in place are beginning to yield results.
He also described us as hooligans.
Really?
Yes. But are you pretending or feigning innocence of what he said when he granted interview, I guess, to a local radio station somewhere and described those who are exercising a right given to them by the Constitution of Ghana as hooligans? Article 21, Clause 1D of the 1992 Constitution says, among others, that citizens can use demonstrations as a means of seeking attention or redress to issues. It doesn't mean that you should use demonstration as the last resort. You can decide to use it as a first resort. So for us to be exercising this right, And the governor of the Central Bank of Ghana described us in a manner that he did is most unfortunate. It is important for us to understand that we have all agreed collectively to charter the path of democracy.
Right.
And once you agree to charter this path, you should be prepared to give up certain privileges and rights as a citizen. You should be prepared to give up something so that the democracy that you so desire to be used as a tool to run this country, goes on effectively. And in a democracy, rules and regulations determine the conduct of everybody, including the president and also the Central Bank of Ghana and the governor. If you read Article 183 of the 1992 Constitution, it says, among others, and in fact, the first function that the Central Bank is expected to discharge as the last lender of resort, the bank of the state, apart from the fact that it is the only bank that has the authority to issue, currencies. The first function is that the Central Bank shall promote the domestic currency and maintain its stability. Right. And lawyers will tell you that when you are looking at functions of an institution, the first one that comes deemed to be the most important one. So if you all agree that the most important function of the Central Bank is to promote the Ghanaian currency and maintain its stability, that should be a yardstick to determine the performance of any Central Bank governor, because the Central Bank governor is the head of the Central Bank. Right. And as to whether you are fit to, hold on to your office or not should be that. He came into office in 2017. Right. As a matter of fact, Dr. Nash was booted out. This government held meetings that had to do with Central Bank without even inviting him. Now, Dr. Addison took the reign of leadership of Central Bank. Tell me whether there has ever been a time under his leadership that we've seen an appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi. He took it at 3.8 to the dollar. Today, it's 11.6. So if you want to use that as a basis, justifiably so, this man should not spend a second in the office of Central Bank.
We heard from the likes of the finance minister, for instance, who's come to the defense of the central bank governor, indicating that the challenges that we're facing as a nation is not unique to Ghana. All central banks have made some level of intervention.
Why is it that only Ghana has the highest inflation rate among our peers within the West Africa sub-region? Why is it that only Ghana, indeed unemployment is escalating among our peers within the West Africa sub-region? Why is it that it's only in Ghana that we have borrowed so much in the eyes of COVID than any of our neighbors? We got $3 billion from the IMF and got over $300 million from the World Bank and got several grants and assistance. As a matter of fact, we dip our hands into the Central Bank to withdraw money. So, but I just don't want to miss the point I was making. That is the most important function of the Central Bank and the governor of the Central Bank. He failed woefully on that. So it is justified for any citizen to be calling for him to resign because he failed. And that is stated in the Constitution of 1992. Now let's look at the challenges that confront them and for which reason those challenges were not created by the people of this country. The challenges were created by the maladministration and the incompetence of the Minister for Finance, the President, the Vice President, including the Governor. So you expect the Minister for Finance to come and defend him. If the chief comes home with weird haircut, what does he expect his subject to come home with? They come with topejo. And that is why the Minister for Finance and the government would desperately defend him. In the eyes of all these challenges, Central Bank themselves reported in their financial statement and annual report that they made losses of 60.8 billion. Now, if you made losses of 60.8 billion, then you should begin acting responsibly. And I'll use an analogy. Right. You are a father who has 2 kids. Schools have resumed. Your kids' colleagues have started going to school. Yes. Then your kids tell you that we are prepared to go to school and say, no, you can't go to school. They ask you why. You say, well, I haven't paid your school fees. And the children, frustrated and unhappy that they may be, they would understand because their father has not paid. Now, the next day, you, the father, you come home with a new saloon car and a gold watch. And they ask you, Daddy, where did you get this car and this watch? Say, oh, I bought the new car and the gold watch. Right. They ask you, I say, oh, the old car is not befitting of my status. How do you think your children would describe you? They will describe you as not just an irresponsible father, but a very wicked father. But in the eyes of all this,
overly simplistic. Are you not being overly simplistic? I'm asking the question because they seem to be getting to work. Now the IMF says, for instance, the next tranche 600 million will come. The central bank.
I have just told you that the central bank governor
is confident that these measures will resuscitate the economy.
I have just told you that based on what the Constitution expects the governor of central bank to do, he has failed woefully. So the idea of whether he is fit to be in office or not, we have gone past that there. But I'm just responding to the reasons or making a statement why we are where we are.
Is it really an Addison problem, or this is a systemic problem?
Who is the
that
head,
goes beyond?
Who is
beyond
the head of the central bank?
Well, he is the head of.
And he's supposed to have some level of independence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now he went ahead, succumbed to the whims and caprices of the executive arm, and printed 80.1 billion, above a threshold that is permitted for him to do by law. So it means that he could not even resist the pressure coming from the executive arm. So anybody who cannot demonstrate that level of independence is not fit to be the governor. But like I said, the idea of whether he is fit or not to be the governor of central bank any longer, we have gone past there, because the constitutional provision which expects him to maintain the stability of the city, he failed woefully. So he should not even be there. But I am just giving explanations why we are where we are. Even in the eyes of making a debt of 60.8 billion, he goes ahead to spend $250 million to put up an office. NDC has never said anywhere that we don't need an office. Okay. We have never said that. But what we have said is that the reason why we're not embarking on this project was because of the circumstances. And we never gotten to this precarious position as we are under this incompetent and corrupt government. Yet still, they go ahead to spend that amount of money. But I want to challenge Joy TV and Joy FM. Go and find out that company that is executing the project, the Gold Keys. Go and find out the directors, the relationship they have with the president and the minister for finance. Go and find out. Now, in the eyes of all this, you are a media man. Right. They spend 32 million Ghana cedis for communication. Bank of Ghana already has a PR department. Those who run that department are employees of Bank of Ghana. They are paid every month. Of course, it is understandable that they may exercise certain responsibilities which may demand that they need to spend certain money. They have an IT department. So what extraordinary thing did they do that would occasion that? Yes. They spent 357 million Ghana cedis in the so-called banking supervision. Right. They have a department which responsibility is it to supervise and monitor the activities of all financial institutions. And in all their regional offices, those people have that mandate, paid every month, enjoy certain benefits and services that you and I do not benefit. What extraordinary thing did they do to occasion that? What will shock you? Now, they spent 257 million Ghana cedis plus $2 million to buy gold watches for retirees of central bank. When we raised the issue, they said no. Even in 2016, amount of money was spent. How much was spent? 2 million Ghana cedis. You have spent 257 million, including 2 million Ghana cedis to buy gold watches. Now tell me, the highest person who should be benefiting in terms of the luxuries of services of central bank should be the governor and the 2 deputies. Which of them have retired? Okay. Which of them? And this money was spent just in 2022.
We're trying to look for a solution to the economic crisis, but you're being accused, that's the minority, that your approach towards the matter is not helping any better. You have decided to hit the streets again, listening to the minority leader, Dr. Kezia Lato-Forson, simply because the governor himself did not receive the petition, which means that the protest will continue. Then in Parliament, you're declaring Dr. Addison persona non grata, which means that you will not cooperate with him. Is the minority seeking for a resolution to this economic crisis, or you're simply trying to make political capital out of this for your own benefit?
137 members of Parliament embark on a legitimate demonstration, a demonstration which right is driven from the 1992 Constitution. That is half, or almost half, of the people representatives. The authority with which we embark on the demonstration was not just the authority coming from us, but we are representing people. And whatever we do them for and on behalf of our people. So half of Ghanaians, almost half of Ghanaians embark upon a demonstration, went to the central bank. The central bank governor has 2 deputies. And beyond the deputies, they have directors whose core responsibility is to ensure that some of this mess we are experiencing today are not. What we witnessed, they allowed a chief watchman to come and attend to us. We didn't demonstrate against the chief watchman. We demonstrated against the central bank. And in that case, the director for security, what we demonstrated had nothing to do with security. It had to do with mismanagement of the affairs of
But your message has been delivered.
No. It has to do with mismanagement of the Central Bank of Ghana. But you see, if anybody thought that we should have accepted and presented the petition to the director for security, right, or you can describe him as the chief watchman, but that is the responsibility. If anybody thought that we took the thing so far, we should have presented it.
Yeah.
The subsequent insults that the governor of Central Bank, Dr. Addison, rained on us for demonstrating our constitutional right and for in behalf of half of the people of this country. He described us as hooligans. Such a person who thought that what we did, we took it extreme, high. And such a person owes us an apology in the eyes of this direct insult at the people of this country, the people we represent. I think that the man is unfit to man that office. He's unfit to get closer to the central bank. And what explanation did they give for spending $250 million to put up an office? They said that where they are is earthquake prone. Is that not what they said?
Yeah.
Then they ought not stay there for even a minute, except that they are telling us that they are aware when the earthquake will strike. Look, I attended University of Ghana, level 100 and level 200. I did archaeology. We had an outstanding lecturer called Dr. Crossland. He told us the entire Greater Accra was on an earthquake prone. The entire Greater Accra. And in fact, I remember he told us University of Ghana was seated on a rock. So if it has to do with earthquake, and for which reason they think that they need to have another office, they ought not spend even 30 minutes in that office. Look, in a serious country, this man should not spend a day at the Central Bank of Ghana. But you know why? There is a day for reckoning.
I see. And probably that may be in Parliament as well.
No, not in Parliament.
Okay, well, okay, maybe when the elections come. But
if he was rational,
yeah.
And I say this with all the seriousness, he would have apologized. He would have apologized to the people of this country for using the words he used. But what did he do? He doubled down. He should have apologized.
I see.
Because for us,
Let's
we
talk
consider
about
it just an insult, not on the 137 NDC members. It was not only NDC members of Parliament who were there. Other civil society organizations, PNC, CPP, other political parties were there. And this man decided to insult all of us. He should be apologized.
So let's wrap up with your decision, what you intend to do as minority in Parliament. If you're not dealing with the Bank of Ghana any longer, then there will be crisis.
We will demonstrate to Dr. I'm not too sure whether I should attach that doctor, because a person with PhD should act responsibly. And people exercising their democratic right, you feel that you must insult them. I really don't think that he's fit to be addressed with that title. So if you permit me, I want to be very clear to Mr. Addison. And I say this with all the seriousness. What they witnessed on that day is nothing but a tip of an iceberg. We will embark on massive demonstrations, and the demonstrations are going to be consistent, because until he indeed become humble, meet us and receive the petition, or ask any of his deputies to receive the petition. If they had done that, we wouldn't have done anything. You see, the demonstration was very peaceful. And let me make this point very clear. The peaceful nature of every demonstration is not determined by the security. It is determined by the conveners of the demonstration and the participants. You remember when we said we're going to embark on this demonstration, they said, it will be chaotic. And we said, look, we are law-abiding citizens. We are very responsible individuals. And those who are going to be participating in the demonstration are all citizens who appreciate the enormity of the laws and the need for the laws to be protected. And that was what we demonstrated. The next demonstration is going to be massive. It's going to be massive until he began realizing that he must indeed show some level of respect to individuals who have been elected by citizens of this country to chair the affairs of this country. And in fact, in all front, Mr. Addison has failed woefully. And it's embarrassing and shameful that a person with PhD will make the kinds of statements he made.
We need to go. What will be that final appeal? The appointing authority is the president. Any message to him?
If the fish is going to rot, certainly start from the head. The thievery and the stealing all happens at the Flagstaff House. Everything that happens in this country. And I'm surprised that people are not talking about that. If the Flagstaff House could add over $800 million to a merry renegotiation, isn't this thievery? So what do you expect people who are working under such a leader to do? And that is why I said,
What's that mean? What's the meaning?
If the chief comes home with wear haircut, the subject will come home with tapejo. And that is what Addison and the Minister for Finance are doing. I mean, the only Minister for Finance whose ministry was waiting for him even when he was indisposed.
We're in the era of haircuts, so when you're talking about their styles, you need to be very careful. I'm grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us this afternoon. That's Murtala Mohammed, Tamale Central MP, and also a member of the Public Accounts Committee. We're taking a break here on The Pulse. When we get back, we'll resume, the dialysis crisis and why we need solutions. We'll talk about that shortly. Please stay.
Hello, my name is Abeku Agri Santana. If there's anything that makes my life so easy, it is my bank. I love hanging out with my boys at our usual fufu joint. But even without cash, we still dey chop better with EcoBank Mobile. No matter the time of day, my bank helps me stay in touch with my beautiful wife whenever she's away. And when my beautiful wife is in town, she never misses out on her favorite TV shows because I'm able to pay up all my TV subscriptions from the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank Mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
The stage is set for Africa's most prestigious awards event. Join us to celebrate the Men of the Year at the 8th EMY Africa Awards on Saturday, the 14th of October at the Grand Arena, Accra International Conference Center. Red carpet starts at 6 p.m. Our partners include the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President of Ghana, the Multimedia Group, EY Ghana, Rhythms Africa, and the Labadi Beach Hotel. Our sponsors, the NLA 590 Mobile, Arocha Ghana, Go Energy, Flora Tissues, Houdin, Baguette Ghana, DVO Ghana, and Special Ice Water. Supported by media partners Joy FM, Joy Prime TV, and Adum TV. For more information, call 020-201-8870. The 8th EMY Africa Awards, inspiring greatness.
Alfred.
Silver iodide.
You're right.
Mark your calendars, set reminders, and get ready for the academic showdown of the year. The 2023 National Science and Maths Quiz. It's time for the brightest young minds in Ghana to battle it out for academic supremacy. Expect mind-bending equations, heart-pounding moments, and nail-biting suspense as the best schools go head-to-head. Who will emerge the ultimate champions and claim the prestigious trophy? Catch the action on TV, radio, and online starting 6th to 24th October 2023.
Well, this afternoon we're focusing on the dialysis crisis with a special focus on the 32-year-old Ubaida Salam, who was supposed to be discharged over a month ago at the Upper West Regional Hospital, where she was admitted to the medical ward. She was diagnosed to have a kidney disease, prompting medical doctors to refer her to the dialysis center for treatment and later to be discharged. Well, due to her unpaid bills, which are pegged now around 5,800 Ghana cedis at the time, Ubaida is unable to leave the hospital and has piled up an additional 4,200 Ghana cedis in the last handful of weeks due to the dialysis treatment. Joining us, Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam is now reporting that her bills have now risen to a little over 10,000 Ghana cedis, and she is calling on government and other benevolent organizations to come to her aid to offset her bills to enable her go home.
In charge of the dialysis center of the Upper West Regional Hospital, Kurusa Daniel removed the veil on the myths surrounding dialysis.
Especially within our community here, people think like when you are having kidney problem and you're supposed to do dialysis, it's a death warrant, but it is not so. So we are doing our best to actually demystify that perception that the public hold.
The dialysis center of the Upper West Regional Hospital was established in November 2022 and has since attended to by dozens of patients. One of them is 32-year-old Ubaida Salam. She cannot exactly state when she had a kidney disease that requires dialysis, except to list the symptoms that force her to come to the hospital for a medical examination.
I had swollen legs, bloated stomach, puffy face, and high blood pressure. I have never been to the hospital without the doctors telling me I have high BP.
The mother of three every week comes to the dialysis center twice for treatment. She is required to pay at least 450 Ghana cedis for each session, an amount that she struggles to pay, considering the petty business that she is in, selling soft drinks and sachet water, carrying them overhead. Her husband is a master craftsman, but barely hard work that can take care of the family, let alone paying for dialysis.
It is difficult for us to pay for the dialysis. Sometimes we owe them, and anytime we get the money, we pay back. Our being here is being taken care of by our blood relations. We are very poor. My husband cannot afford the 450 Ghana cedis. Without the support of my family, I would have been dead by now.
Ubaida was supposed to be discharged by the hospital a month ago so that she could come into the center for the dialysis. She is however unable because she cannot offset her medical bills. Her medical bills at the hospital is a little over 10,000 Ghana cedis, including the dialysis, which she has defaulted payment of 4,200 Ghana cedis.
Because of the cost involved, so especially this woman, she's supposed to have gone home, I think last 2 months, and be coming for dialysis. But because of cost, they can't even offset the hospital bill at the ward level. So they are forced to be here and be coming for the dialysis till they pay the bill, then they go home. So for her like this, it's the cost that is keeping her. If not, she would have been home and be coming for dialysis.
Unemployed middle age, Mariam Yahya is a mother-in-law of Ubaida. She says they are at their wit ends and seem to exhaust all channels to enable them for the medical bills.
We have nowhere to go for money again, and yet our bills are piling up. It is because we are unable to offset our bills. That is why we are still here. Our people have helped us a lot. Can we continue to go to them?
Ubaida appeals to the government to consider adding dialysis to the list of medication on the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Government should take a second look at our plight and include dialysis on NHIS.
Medical Director of the Upper West Regional Hospital, Dr. Robert Amesia, however, wants a conversation of prevention of kidney diseases.
I think prevention is always better than cure. People are selling all manner of concoctions that people consume. Some are very toxic to the kidneys. What about that? So it's emotional to have people who are suffering, that are struggling to get help. But how do we prevent people from getting to that state? Because if we don't prevent, we thought we didn't have enough patients who would have been requiring dialysis until we started our center. And we realized that even the 3 machines that we have are not adequate. It means that what we're even seeing is a tip of the iceberg. So this issue of affordability, we need to resituate it well. If everything is provided and you are able to do it for free, why not?
For now, patients undergoing dialysis at the hospital can only be grateful to the hospital for having such a facility which their survival hinges on. They are pressing on the government to, in the future, be able to work through the jigsaw puzzle to make the financing of dialysis treatment free in the country.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
And what a touching story there by Rafiq Salam on the situation of Obeida. You could also just come through by helping here, but we've been also seeking some answers from government, and that was done on the Joy News leadership event, which was held in our studios. And Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Nsia Asare, revealed that the National Health Insurance Authority has already set up a committee to review and assess whether or not the NHIS can absorb the cost of the dialysis treatment. This was corroborated by the Director of Corporate Affairs by the NHIA, Oswald Mensah, at the same event which brought together all stakeholders. Dr. Nsia Asare also revealed that the process to make kidney transplant available in Ghana is underway, with a document being reviewed for a law that will now have us store and donate some of these organs. Maxwell Akuba has more in this report.
I'm very angry.
What's your story?
I am very angry. I'm more angrier this morning. People are dying each day. The dialysis machine in Kolebu got...
Voice of activist Nasiba Bauer at a protest demanding a reduction in the cost of dialysis treatment after the Kolebu Teaching Hospital increased the cost from 380 cedis to 765 Ghana cedis. The amount has since been reversed. It triggered the Dialysis Crisis series on Joy News, highlighting the plight of 54-year-old Georgina Pia, who couldn't afford the cost of dialysis. 15-year-old Priscilla Sante, who died some hours after she was featured in the series, pleading for assistance with her dialysis treatment. Some patients with kidney failure held a press conference and said 14 of their members have died between May and September after the Kolebu Teaching Hospital limited its dialysis treatment to just emergency cases. The hospital said it had run out of consumables. The renal patients who said they were being sponsored were now compelled to pay for dialysis treatment in other facilities. Speaking during the stakeholders event held in the studios of Joy, Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, said the decision was taken because the Kolebu Teaching Hospital renal unit is suffocating under a 4 million Ghana cedis debt. He's unsure when the services will be made available to outpatients. He says the facility will also need 961,000 Ghana cedis monthly to keep the cost of dialysis at 380 Ghana cedis.
We are now engaged with government, with the ministry, with other stakeholders to see how quickly we can, find the resources to advance. Because at the moment we are sitting in a 4 million cedi hole. If we are to operate at our current capacity, which is about 2,000 dialysis sessions every month, then it means that we are going to accumulate about 961,000 cedis of debt every month, in addition to the 4 million cedis that we have already. So this is financially unsustainable.
You can't tell when exactly the OPD will be opened.
Yes, exactly.
You can't tell.
I can't. Yes.
Okay.
So it's 4 million. We have a 4 million deficit.
Okay.
And then if you are to run at full capacity, we will need about 961,000 cedis subsidy every month to be able to maintain the current prices.
Presidential advisor on health, Dr. Anthony Nsiah-Asare, says steps have been taken to settle the debt.
We are waiting for what they are supposed to bring and then to be worked on as quickly as possible. The money is supposed to be provided by our Ministry of Finance, isn't it?
Yes. Okay.
So Dr. Mpoma has to put everything that he's doing, that he's being asked to do, as quickly as possible in place. If I were him, I would use 24 hours to put everything in place and present it. Yeah, so they'll present it.
You've already presented.
And
no, you're free to talk because this is direct.
I've told him what to do.
Yeah.
And then quickly, I'm sure I know what normally such things are very dear to the heart of the authorities, and it will be done.
Kidney failure patient Kojo Bafwahinkra says most of his colleagues feel they are a burden on society, with friends deliberately not answering their calls.
Now we are becoming a burden to the society. You pick a phone, you want to call your friend. He knows you are coming to ask for money, so you will not even pick. Wow. You pick a phone, maybe you want even to say hello, maybe there's an information you are trying to ask him. He will not even answer it. Later on, you call back and say, oh, child, I saw your call, now this Samuel. It's not true. Because he knows you are coming to ask money. And it's true. When you call the person, it's money.
President of the Ghana Kidney Association, Professor Samson Enchi, says all children with end-stage kidney in Ghana die. He says immediate dialogue and action is needed to make dialysis accessible and affordable to all.
When it comes to children, it's pathetic because we don't have any facility for children. And where I practice, for all these years, any child who gets to the end-stage kidney disease dies. And the number is quite huge. But there are many more who also pass in our health facilities. All the children die. And many adults can also initiate it. So the second problem has been the cost of treating kidney failure. It is so expensive that we should not allow people to pay out of their pockets. What we see in Confanoche, take note of this statistics, it's quite startling statistics. We see every year between 25 to 40 children who come with end-stage kidney disease, and they will all die because, of course, we don't even talk about initiating chronic dialysis.
Former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Titus Bayu, wants dialysis treatment to be made free.
If we are looking at it, I think ultimately dialysis must be free. And we have to have a funding mechanism. My other submission on this is that if you look at the kidney situation we are discussing, the prevalence of chronic kidney disease, about 17% in Ghana, means that this condition is even more prevalent than HIV. Has it gotten the needed attention like HIV? So we need perhaps a separate entity, maybe a National Kidney Health Authority or a chronic diseases or non-communicable diseases authority to engage in surveillance for these conditions, proper research on the etiology.
Director of Corporate Affairs at the National Health Insurance Authority, Oswald Mensah, says the NHIE has set up a committee to review and assess whether the NHIS can absorb the cost of dialysis after Joy FM's Dialysis Crisis series.
As it stands today, there's conversations, and this has started, of course, based on your documentary. Even at the NHI level, the board is discussing, there's a committee that has been set up to have these conversations about dialysis, its implications, if NHI can do anything about it, and most importantly, make recommendations for the policymakers. And I'm happy Senior says there's a lot happening in that space. The Ministry of Health drives policy in our landscape. So whatever recommendations that the board will come up with will be passed on to the ministry and the policymakers for a direction on where we...
And did you say that a committee has now been set up to review and consider whether you can afford to take the dialysis cost? Is that what it is?
Yes. Okay. Before NHI can take on any disease condition, we must do actual studies.
Presidential advice on health, Dr. Anthony Nsiah-Asare, revealed the process to make kidney transplant available in Ghana is underway, with a document being reviewed for a law on the harvesting, storage and donation of organs.
There's a document which is being reviewed so that we have a law. It's very, very important. It has to go through cabinet for cabinet approval and then move to parliament for parliamentary approval, and the president will assent to it, so that we can harvest the organ, we can store the organ, and also donate the organ. It's not only for kidney, because even for the in vitro fertilization that they are doing, it's a tissue. Skin from other person to another person is a tissue. So all these things should be backed by law. And that is what is going on. And as I said, I'm very key. He is very key. Everybody is key. The Ghana Kidney Association, the Ghana Ophthalmological Association, and then even the Plastic Surgery Association and the IVF team are all on us. And some of us have taken up as our, because I'm a doctor, first and foremost, that this thing should be done and done as quickly as possible. And then, as he rightly, as the Dr. Ampuma said also, we are building the capacity of our surgeons. Actually, kidney transplant is one of the most not so complicated things that we can do, as any surgeon can do. And we know that there's also a urology unit which is almost completed at Korle Bu. It will be part of the place where we can have also renal transplant done, and to train our doctors and our nurses and all the health workers to go into that type of field. We are working on that. I know that there's a document which is being looked at the moment.
Well, aside the dialysis crisis, we know that another health crisis is looming today. The network of persons living with HIV saying there is a shortage of life-saving antiretroviral medications across the country. Some facilities, the network reveals, have been forced to prescribe children's antiretrovirals for adults, with some taking medications meant for children as well. Others are resorted to taking some expired antiretroviral drugs, and there's a need for us to get through the statement that's just been released by the network, while we bring in the network to provide some further clarification on this that we're receiving. So let's get to the details of the concerns by this network, but we can now of course hear from Elsie. Elsie is with the network. We'll be hearing from them shortly because they are raising some of the concerns in this very statement, which we'll bring to you shortly. But also joining the conversation is the director for the AIDS Commission. That's Dr. Stephen Etoahene, who's also joining us. Let me start off with you, Dr. Etoahene, and then we'll get the concerns while we progress with this conversation. The point about what our status is it the case that as a country we're beginning to, defund, or perhaps we have lost adequate funding for the fight against HIV? What's our status now? Dr. Etoahene, you have to unmute so we can get the point you're sharing with us.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Yes, I guess you are asking about the financial status of the HIV program.
Yes, precisely, sir.
Okay, right. I think I've said it before, and I will repeat now as well, that Ghana requires about $133 million annually to provide the full range of HIV services in the country. And the amount we have is just about $31.2 million every year. For each year. That amount is from donor sources. And so we have a funding gap of more than 67%. And so for the 5-year period, the funding gap is around $445 million. Now, it is so because all the commodities that we use are imported. They are not manufactured here. And we use hard currency to procure them. And so our donors have been providing these medicines with the expectation that government will supplement procurement of these medicines so that we can have adequate medicines for the people living with HIV. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And so, considering the funding gap, it means we also have supply gaps when it comes to HIV commodities.
Okay, here's what I want us to do. Let's do a recap of the concerns being raised by persons living with HIV. We have excerpts of, what it is that they are concerned on the screens right now, pointing out some of the key concerns they are raising. They are equally pointing out that there's complete shortage of life-saving medication, and now we have, some persons living with HIV taking drugs that are even meant for children, and some are even going to the extent of using expired medication. Here's what we'll do. Elsie Aya is the national president of the Network of Persons Living with HIV. She's also on with us. Elsie, just give us a sense of what your concerns are. Then we can hear from Dr. Atuahene on what the way forward should be, and probably explore the implications. We'll get to Elsie for you shortly, but there you have it, the statement pointing out and, just summarizing their entire concerns. And, of course, their investigations are also revealing that in some facilities as well, you have the medication, which is meant for children, being used for adults. And, there's a case where some of them are even using expired products as well. Dr. Atuahene, the point about the implications for our fight against the HIV. We know that you were pointing out earlier this year that your figures are surging. If this is the situation where we find ourselves in as a country, then the figures might go further, higher, right?
Yes, you are right. But let me clarify that, yes, the concern raised are correct. We have checked and they are facts. But the situation is that the commodities are in country, except that they are locked up at the ports, and due to delayed payment of port charges. And so it's not as if we don't have drugs. In fact, there are a number of different HIV drugs that we use in the country. We have drugs for first line, second line, and third line. Now, this particular combination, that is abacavir and the lamivudine combination, are the ones that we do not have now in the health facilities. And hopefully, we believe they will be released very soon to augment what we already have in the system. I understand the Ghana Health Service has released some money to the clearing agent to clear the containers that are locked up at the port.
Is it the case that what's the mechanism, Dr. Atuahene, if you can hear me, just give us some clarification on this. What's the mechanism for bringing in some of these drugs? They are life-saving drugs. Don't you liaise with the Ghana Health Service at least to get a waiver on these life-saving drugs?
No, the waiver has already been granted by Parliament, and waiver is applied to these, not only the HIV drugs, also all the HIV-related commodities. And so is it for malaria commodities and TB, which are donated by the Global Fund. Because it is a donation, the government grants these waivers. The problem is that we have about 6 different clearing charges at the port, which are not necessarily waivers. And when they delay and they go into demurrage, and demurrage costs also add up. However, I must admit that we have 2 levies on these commodities, and these are ECOWAS and AU levies. And these ones, we got as a member country of these 2 regional organizations, we will have to work with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration to get ECOWAS and AU to waive these levies so that it will be 100% levy-free or duty-free commodities. That is being worked on. But presently, what we need to focus on is to prevent the kind of activities or the way the healthcare workers are trying to, address the problem, giving, medicines meant for children to adults, and and giving out expired drugs. We don't have the evidence to validate these claims, but we also know that the source can't be trusted. And so it is not a good practice to do that. And I will urge all healthcare workers who are involved in this kind of practice to, desist from that.
Figures. There's a need for us to revisit that and some preventive measures as well. But I understand Elsie is also joining our conversation as well. So let's also hear from them because they are, with the network of persons living with the condition. Elsie, what's your story and why are you alarmed as a network about, the situation, the shortage as it is?
Thank you very much for having me on this program. But before I continue, I want to make one clarification. None of us were given expired drugs. When our members went to the facility for their medication, they were told that, there were no medication. All that they had were drugs that had expired. We know the batches. And then we always make sure that what we are given is, within the time frame that we could take them safely. These medications expired in September, just a few days ago. So knowing the negative effects of not being on medication, our members said, rather give us the expired drugs. We would rather take expired drugs than not take anything. So that was what happened. Of course, they were not given that medication because they were expired. So that was where the issue of expired drugs came into the story. No health staff gave us expired drugs. Our members said they would rather take expired drugs than no medication at all.
So what would be the way forward now in terms of how you intend to make up for the shortage? Obviously, there must be some stopgap measure before, of course, the intervention comes through.
Stopgap from whose point of view? We are just to go to the facility and get our medication. And that was what we confidently do every time we have to go to the clinic. And we knew that these medications were at the harbor. We had talked about it. We had made moves to ensure that the medications were now okay for us to access. But then surprisingly, it came as a surprise 2 days ago when we heard that at Kolebu, there were no medications. There were no medications, especially the Abacavir Lamivudine, which is in the hub, which we know specifically that's among those drugs still at the harbor.
Oh, okay. So what are you urging or advising your members to do now, knowing that the drugs are in short supply? I'm just wondering.
Our members can't do anything. We are all doing what we are doing now. We are calling on the government to remove that tax waiver. We know that the medication is free. Free in the sense that they were bought for us. Let's say they were donated. Why should our country tax those medications that had come in free? That's what we don't understand. That is what we find very difficult to understand. So is that tax more important than the lives of the number of PLHIVs who are virally suppressed at this time, who have to continue taking their medication so that we remain healthy, we don't transmit HIV, and we also enable our country to reach that target that we are all heading towards, that is AIDS-free population by 2030. We don't want the new infections coming on board. And the more we get virally suppressed.
Well, Elsie, your point is well made there. Dr. Chiani, as we wrap up, you must be concerned about this. So what are the marching... Yeah, Dr. Chiani, what are the marching orders now?
On the line. The issue is that, the persons living with HIV depend on antiretroviral medicines for their sustenance, for their continued existence. And so any break in supply means that we are putting their lives at risk. And at no point in time should we allow what is happening to happen. And so as government, this matter is taken very seriously, and we need to address it. And I'm happy, just as I've said previously, that some payment has been made. What I expect is that Ghana Health Service will prioritize the HIV commodities to get them released immediately, because there are several containers of various health commodities at the port, which are in the same category of delay, the same category of non-clearance. And so it is very necessary that the priority is given to the HIV commodities, especially if the money paid is not enough to get all the containers released. And so that is what I will urge the Ghana Health Service to do at the moment, because any break in supply of antiretroviral medicines to people living with HIV is a serious risk to their lives. And we should not do anything to undermine their lives. Thank you.
Grateful, Dr. Etiahine, for spending some time with us. Also to you, Elsie. We'll definitely be monitoring developments and bring you some updates. Time now to talk politics and developments in the West African SAP region, because the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is deploying a stringent measure to support a credible election in the Republic of Liberia. Together with the African Union, an independent team is working with the National Electoral Commission to assess the coalition and also tallying of electoral results. This follows the heightened mistrust within Liberian society over the credibility of the National Electoral Commission. Our correspondent joining us live from Liberia is Nanaya Aljuma, who's going to be monitoring the 2023 presidential and legislative elections in Liberia. He's joining us now with more. Nanaya, thank you for spending some time with us. But first, though, it's a good time also to listen to the ECOWAS mission, which has addressed the press on what to expect in the coming days.
Society organizations, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. Your arrival here has been preceded by many engagements that ECOWAS Commission has had here in Liberia. We've had an exploratory mission that arrived here in February. The essence of that engagement was to assess what was going on in Liberia as we worked towards an electoral process that ensured free, fair, transparent, inclusive, credible and peaceful elections. After they left, following their recommendations, we stepped up our engagement with national stakeholders here in Liberia to ensure that the process was on track, to identify the issues and to find ways to address these issues. Undoubtedly, we have seen some level of delays in the electoral process, and particularly with the calendar of activities. This was primarily because at the initial stages of turning from an OMR system to a BVR, the procurement process itself was fraught with challenges. However, with a lot of backdoor diplomacy, we managed to overcome that. But the ripple effect was that we had time constraints with the elections calendar. In fact, there was a point where we thought that we may not be able to hold elections on October 10th, 2023. And so for me, personally, I see it as a commendation to the National Elections Commission to striving to ensure that elections are held on the constitutionally mandated date, which is October 10th. Ladies and gentlemen, this year in particular, or this particular election, presents a peculiarity for us. I understand that in the 100-year history of Liberia, this is the first time where you are having the incumbent and the main opposition party, one having tasted power before and wanting to come back to power. Sorry. Better? Yeah, thank you. One having tasted power for 12 years and seeking to be re-elected, and of course the incumbent also seeking to be re-elected. This is the first time in 100 years of Liberia's political history. So of course the stakes are high, and because the stakes are high, it behoves us to be extra vigilant in assessing and addressing the concerns that have arisen. In the last few weeks, we have seen a growth, a spate of inflammatory rhetoric in the public space, and that has raised concerns for many of us in the international community, as well as the Liberian community itself. In order to ensure that we escalate our conversations, it was necessary for us to invite ahead Professor Jega to come and assess the situation as head of mission and to have some high-level engagement with political leaders. We believe that the engagements we held were successful. We received the reassurance of political leaders that they are committed to a peaceful electoral process. We are also keenly aware that in spite of all of the preparations that NEC has done, we have a few, NEC being the National Elections Commission, forgive me, we have a few outstanding matters that need to be attended to. And we're working round the clock to support the national efforts, complement the roles that they have played and what they've put in place so that we can have an enhanced, transparent election. There is mistrust within the rank and file of the Liberian society. Mistrust that is largely driven by political rhetoric. And even though we believe that the transparency of the process here, particularly around results management, tallying and collation, meets best practices, we nonetheless hear a lot of negativity and criticism towards the National Elections Commission. In these last few days, we have held engagements with the National Elections Commission, engaging them to step up their communication strategy to dispel rumors, reduce fear and anxiety, and enable the Liberian people understand that elections is just another democratic exercise that we need to engage in entrenching our democratic processes. Having said that, I think it's also important for us to state that elections is the business of every one of us. And so in Liberia, through the various engagements we've had on the ECOWAS, using the ECOWAS platform, we have sought to encourage that level of involvement of all. Liberia has a predominantly youthful population. Over 60% of them of the Liberian population is under 35 years old. And that can be a force for good.
By the Economic Community of West African States, the country Representative Josephine Nkrumah addressing the press there. But let's cross you over now to Liberia, where Nana Aljuma is joining us for more. It's been 24 hours since your arrival. How's the euphoria like catching up among citizenry ahead of the elections, which is just days away?
So driving from the airport through to Monrovia, and this morning also going through town. Things are very, very calm here in Monrovia. You don't get the sense of an election impending until you see these billboards and posters all over. That is when you understand that there's something coming up. But nonetheless, this is a very, very important election for the people here in Liberia. Many of them continue to talk about the election, especially when you monitor the local radio stations here in Liberia. Now, the issue is whether the National Electoral Commission, whether they have credible data to help ensure that the election is free and fair on Monday. And this is what the Economic Community of West African States, the Election Observer team, is working together with the NEG to ensure that all doubts are cleared on the minds of people. As you heard Madam Josephine Nkrumah say, already there's a team, an independent IT team on the ground to ensure that they collaborate with the National Electoral Commission to ensure that all the bottlenecks or all the challenges that the various aspirants and also the people of Liberia have with the register is sorted before Monday.
I see, and that's a crucial point to take note of. Why is the sub-regional body ECOWAS concerned about a peaceful election in Liberia? We know that this is the very first post the United Nations Monitoring Group and forced to stabilize peace in the country after prolonged periods of civil war. Beyond these concerns, why is ECOWAS concerned about a peaceful elections in Liberia this year?
From the ECOWAS delegation to Liberia, they are very aware of the issues that the civil war or the civil unrest that was in Liberia some time ago, and for about 15 years or more, the place have been calm. So this is the reason why the ECOWAS wants to ensure that there is continuous calmness in Liberia, and also the ECOWAS wants to deepen the democracy within Liberia. Already we understand, or we know, that there are issues with overthrow in other parts of West Africa, and this is, such issues continue to rise within the West African states. So ECOWAS wants to send a strong signal to the whole of West Africa that democracy is still the way to go. So they've taken a very, very important role in this particular election, especially with working together with the National Electoral Commission to ensure that everything that they are doing is in due course. And also, they would want to ensure that the people of Liberia continue to understand that democracy is the only way to go.
Finally, there's a need for us to talk about the head of the mission doing the long-term observation of this democratic process. What reaction have you been getting from them at this news briefing earlier today?
So this morning, the observer, the whole of the observer team here in Kenya, in Liberia, to be precise, we're in a meeting, and the people have been taken through the do's and don'ts when it comes to being an observer in this election. And after that, the leadership of the observer team went to the UN office to meet with diplomats here in Liberia. They've been discussing a lot of issues. Unfortunately, the media didn't get entrance, or we didn't get access to this meeting. What we understand is that pressing issues that needed to be raised today were raised in that meeting. There was supposed to be a press conference, a joint press conference organized by the National Electoral Commission together with the ECOWAS. Unfortunately, due to some reasons, this meeting or this press conference has been postponed, but the ECOWAS continue to work closely together with the Electoral Commission here in Liberia. Things are very, very calm, and the ECOWAS team is on the grounds and ensuring that they deal with all the pending issues or the issues that have been raised by various aspirants and also the electorate.
Nanaia Algyema joining us there from Liberia. He will be on the grounds to cover the 2023 Liberian election, which is just underway in a couple of days. But we now take you to Europe, because this week Germany is celebrating 33 years since its reunification, as events take place to remember the dramatic occurrences that led to the merging of the two ideologically opposed systems. A reference is often made to how German society and public life continue to be shaped by the division between East and West, and how the country's extraordinary history influences its current role on the world stage. To talk to us more about this, I'm joined by DW's Kate Ferguson in Berlin. Kate, how do Germans view this reunification today?
Speaking Germans would see reunification as a success, because if you really think about how extraordinary this was, you had two countries with radically opposed ideologies separated by a literal wall, almost overnight becoming one. And if you put it into that context, it really is a success that we have a Germany for the last 3 decades that has seen relative political and economic stability, something you can't really take for granted. That said, though, there are still divisions between East and West, particularly on an economic level. Wages in the former East Germany are significantly lower than in the West, and that has a lot to do with the brain drain that happened following reunification. There have been efforts made to address these sort of structural differences, though, and a report by the German government out this week pointed out that the pensions between East and West, there was no longer a difference between them, because that had long been a bone of contention. There are other positive developments as well. We actually saw a big investment by the American company Intel in the eastern German city of Magdeburg recently. They invested 33 billion euros into a chip-making factory there. That was one of the biggest sources of foreign investment in Germany ever, and a particularly symbolic one given Magdeburg's location and history. So I would say there is still a divide, but it is getting less.
And many are talking about Germany's current ruling coalition government facing some enormous challenges, including issues ranging from the rise in support for the far-right Alternative for German party. To what extent can we say that some of these historical divisions between the East and West are playing a major role in this trend that we're seeing?
Well, it is true that support for the far-right AfD is greater in the former East Germany than in the West. In the states of Thuringia, Saxony and Brandenburg, they are polling at about 30%, which is a real challenge for the mainstream political parties in Germany. But they are also doing quite well in the western states. We have elections coming up in Bavaria and Hesse, both in the former West Germany this weekend. And the AfD is expected to get around 15% of the vote there. So definitely not insignificant. There are a number of factors that explain maybe why the AfD is rising at the moment. The German economy is not faring well. There are a number of reasons to explain this, but at the same time, we have seen a large rise in the number of people arriving in Germany to seek asylum. And while those two trends have nothing to do with each other, it's something that the far right often conflates. So we do have a couple of things that might be playing into the rising support there. That said, I think experts would be keen to point out that the divide between rural and urban areas is actually more significant when it comes to support for the AfD than the difference between East and West. People in rural areas are far more likely to vote for that party than their counterparts in cities.
This way, 3 decades since reunification, Germany has struggled to define its identity on the world stage. How does the country see itself in the international space today as we speak?
Well, yeah, for a long time, Germany preferred to have a little bit of a backseat role when it came to international affairs. They favoured a non-interventionist, quite a passive approach. But that has actually changed dramatically under the leadership of Chancellor Olaf Scholz. And that's a direct consequence of Russia's war in Ukraine. After that, Scholz announced what's been known as a Zeitenwende. That loosely translates as a change of epoch. And it refers to a real shift shift in German policy in a variety of areas when it comes to defence spending, for example, or the willingness to send heavy weapons to war zones, but also to other areas like the decision to wean itself off Russian gas and to adopt a more decisive stance in its relations to China. So I would say that 33 years after German reunification, circumstance have actually dictated that Germany is now taking a more assertive role on the world stage.
Okay, Ferguson, thank you for the latest from Berlin. The Kumasi edition of the Habitat Fair is ongoing at the Kumasi City Mall with exhibitors here in Ghana, and I mean the Ashanti region, offering some exciting solutions to partners. So let's get more on what's happening there today, because the Love FM Republic Bank Habitat Fair is the one-stop shop for homeowners and also prospects, those who are doing some prospecting as far as housing is concerned. Let's cross over and get the very latest for you.
Massive. Well, when I visited some of the exhibitors, they say they recorded lots of patronage from clients. So I'm very sure that it's going to be the same today because I'm about visiting some of the stands and I've already seen patrons coming in. So, I mean, we are in for a good time. Well, let me also move to the stand of some exhibitors, and I would like to visit the stand of our headline sponsor, that is Republic Bank. Well, series of interviews that we've had with them shows that they are offering amazing discounts and deals for exhibitors. So I'm at the stand of Republic Bank PLC. Let me see if I can get any staff to speak to. Hello, Leila. My name is Mona Lisa. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, well, it's nice meeting you in Kumasi. Well, I hope I'll take you to the best fufu joint so you can enjoy.
I can't wait.
So, sure. What's Republic Bank offering patrons for this year's edition of the Habitat Fair? I know you have amazing discounts, so tell us more.
You said it right, yes, Mona. So amazing discounts. We are currently running our ultra low interest rates. So it means that we have been low and we are going lower. So we are currently running the ultra low interest rates. So it means that your regular rate is now going to go even below the competitive ones that we have. So when you come to the Habitat Fair this time around, you're going to walk away with some savings. It's not just for now. It goes up until the 31st of January 2024. So you have enough time to take a decision, get a mortgage from the mortgage masters.
Okay, so would you, when it comes to assessing my credit score, I'm a middle income earner. When we talk about mortgages, most of the time people feel it's for a certain class of people.
Okay, so that's a myth that we have consistently trying to debunk. Mortgage is accessible to anybody who earns. The difference is what you qualify for. So, for instance, if you definitely earn like 50,000 a month, you can only afford what you can afford. And someone who earns 1,800 will also afford what they can afford. But objectively, once you earn an amount, you definitely qualify for a property which is within your budget. The problem is that we usually want to look at the end. We want the big house, the dream house. However, for a first-time home, you want to get something that will take you away from being a tenant to being a landlord, to owning your home. It's not your dream home first. It's what would take you away from being that tenant so that you can save towards your dream home. So what am I saying? I'm just saying that whatever you qualify for today, deal with that. Maybe it's a 2-bedroom, simple house, and then while you're saving that lump sum that you would have probably paid for the landlord, you can get access to your dream home. So everybody who earns would qualify for amounts, yes.
Okay, and also let me also ask, so I know that last year you were on board, and well, I overheard it was being rumored that Republic Bank really made lots of sales that day, and was that true? And I think it's true. I need not to ask. So this year, how do you find the patronage? I know the day is still young. This is day one, but
Mona, we are in the business of business. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't amazing last year. So the fact that we are here, we are title sponsors for the first time, tells you that there's so much to get from the Habitat Fair. For us, the brand itself, Love FM, Multimedia, they are pace setters. You guys are pace setters. And so are we in the mortgage business. So these two big brands have come together to help governments bridge that gap between the housing deficits. And it's our pleasure to do so. We are here because last year, like you said, when we came, we realized that we could do more with Love FM. And I'm happy to say today, yes, the weather has been good. I'm told it's been raining the entire week. Today we've got this very cool weather. We've had a couple of interviews and already have feedback from those interviews. We've had a lot of people come in. So definitely, I'm expecting even more, especially for the fact that both of our brands have just won the CIMG Awards, yes, for top class, top tier in the businesses that we do. So yes, come and feel that's what everybody else is feeling that has given us that top tier level. Yes.
Sure. Thank you very much, Leila. See you around. So that was Leila of Republic Bank. And as she's saying, you better make the wise decision of coming here because they have so many mortgage loan options for you. I moved to the stand of Airport City, Kumasi. Let's see what Airport City has for us. I have spotted my very beautiful, fine lady here that I would love to speak to. Okay. So, can I interact with you? My name is Mona Lisa. What's your name?
My name is Marion.
Okay. I've spotted Kensington Heights. What is it all about? What do you do? Because it's my first time of hearing such a thing in Kumasi, such a name.
The Kensington Heights is a luxurious smart city. It's an apartment. It's an apartment complex, part of the Airport City Kumasi project. Yes, that's the first phase. That's the key, the Kensington Heights. Yes, please. It's 11 floors with a rooftop swimming pool.
But let me also ask, when you hear of such luxury apartments, most of the time it's for a certain class of people, the rich ones. So if I am a middle income person, how do I afford?
Everyone can own an apartment. We have payment plans, mortgages for everyone. We have payment plans that you can spread across years and buy. So everyone can own an apartment. Yes, please.
And what's the lowest amount of money I should have on board before?
So our lowest apartment is going for $69,000. Yes, please.
Sure, thank you very much. And I've already seen patrons come in. Well, what's your assessment of today's event? I know this is the first time I'm seeing you on board, so I know that you are recording much patronage. Tell me about it.
This is our first time, and this is the first day. So far we've had people curious to know what Airport City Kumasi is about. So far we are doing good.
Sure, thank you very much. Well, you heard the Kensington Heights, that's Airport City Kumasi, and they say discover the new benchmark in luxury living in Kumasi. We move on to another stand, which is safety and home solutions. So when I talk about safety, then it means anything security. Let me move to my fine gentleman over here and speak to him. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mona Lisa, and what's your name?
My name is Obri Abua.
Sure, Obri Abua. I read from your stand it's safety and home solutions. So it has given me a fair idea. And what do you do? Tell me about it.
At Safety and Home Solutions, we are into doors and waterproofing solutions. So if you need any door, from exterior door, interior doors, we have you covered. We also have doors in different sizes depending on the door type that you want, and then also we customize your door. So we have our tagline, as you think of a door, we have it. So we customize your door to any specification that you want. We also have different doors like waterproof, this one too can withstand any weather condition. We have it in single, we have it in double, and also 1.5. This, as you can see, is a 1.5 door. We have the half here and then the one here. Also, we have 8-feet doors. This is a solid wood 8-feet door. Yes, which comes with the frame and the accessories. We do free installation, free delivery within Accra. But in Kumasi, We don't have a branch yet, but if you buy, we can arrange for you.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. But I would want to learn more about the customization of doors. What do you mean? Well, this is the first time I'm hearing that, so please educate me.
Okay, so we have the doors already made. So if you come and you said, okay, I like this door, but I want to change this handle. I want this design to be circles. I want this door to be 8 feet or 9 feet, or even smaller than this size. We do it for you. And it takes only 3 months for you to get it fixed at your home for you for free installation and also free delivery.
Oh, that's very positive. And I've also spotted, is it paint?
Waterproofing solutions. They are chemicals. So if you have dampness, you have leakages, you have cracks on your wall, we have the solution for you. And also we have from the roof to the concrete, we have all the solutions for you.
So what's the price range, especially for the doors? What's the lowest amount of money I may have? Maybe I would want to furnish my apartment with a door, but I may not have the money up front. Any package for me to pay it in installments?
Yes, at the fair we are giving up to 15% discount, but however it depends on the type of door that you are buying and also the quantity. We can even give you as much more discount depending on the quantity you need. However, we have interior doors with different sizes, and it starts from 4,899, which we give you a discount of 10%, which will reduce it more for you. Also, we have the complete with a frame, 5,299 for the exterior, the interior doors. And also with the exterior doors, we have different prices depending on the size and the type you want.
And there's a door which looks like a mirror. This particular door looks like a mirror.
Tempered glass, 8 feet door. This is a single one. We have the double and then the single and the 1.5. Also, we have it in the pivot door where it opens in a sideways. We have the hinge at the middle of the door.
Sure. And then your waterproof solution, how much is it going for?
We have it in different sizes depending on the size that you buy. But with a small one in sachets, we have it from 50 cedis, 150 cedis, and also with this one is 680 for the salt neutralizer.
For the bucket or for the bucket or for the gallon?
For the gallon. And with the buckets, we have it in different prices. Like the Integral, we have it at 2,800, and then we have the Seal Bond for 1,800.
Sure, thank you very much, sir. And I'm sure that you are recording a lot of patronage because I've seen people throng your stand.
Yes, we are doing a lot today. Though today is the first day, but we've already made about some number of sales.
Okay, sure, that's very impressive.
Also looking forward for all those in the house to come visit us. Just come and have a look. Even if you are not ready, just come and have a look. And then we have the solutions for all the issues you have in your building. That's the waterproofing solution.
So thank you.
We call all to visit our stand today. We are here from now to Sunday. Yeah.
Sure, thank you very much, sir. So you had safety and home solutions. I also moved to the stand of Star Life Assurance and Spectra Health Mutual Insurance Scheme. Good morning, sir. I'm surprised to see Star Life Insurance. This is supposed to be a habitat fair, but I know that, even as we build our houses, there's a need to insure. Yeah, I got that correct. So, sir, tell us, Star Life Insurance, what packages do you have for us?
Okay, we have a lot of packages. We have about 6 policies. We have the Wealth Master policy, the Child Life, Cash Builder plan, our UPP scam plan. And let's see, there's the Home Core policy. That's the package that we have so far as Star Life Insurance Company.
Okay, so anything for homes too, anything for houses, any insurance for houses?
Okay, we have Star Assurance. After that one, they are into houses, cars if you want to insure your car.
But it's with the same brand?
The same company, but we have the Star Life and the Star Assurance.
So let's talk about yours.
Yeah, so we are Star Life Insurance Company. We deal with only life. That's how we do.
So anything unique for patrons today at the Habitat Fair?
Okay. Your question again.
Well, I'm talking about the products you are bringing. Anything special about it? Maybe discounted rates? I know you are in to sign people, but I want to know what you're coming here with that will attract patrons to your stand. Anything impressive?
The main purpose we are here is about our Spectra, our UPP Spectra policy. That's the main reason why we are here. Although we have a lot of policies, but you see, with our scan plan, you see, going to the hospital, yes, you may go to the hospital, the doctor may prescribe, say, go and do a scan. It's due to money. So Star Life as a company, as planned, say, okay, why don't you bring in a package? Even if you're on our policy and you go to hospital, with that money, if the doctor asks you for a scan, like any scanner, at least you can have it free of charge without paying a kobo. It's just an amount of money. You pay small amount of money, you have free scan plan for yourself.
Okay, so what's the amount of money that I have to pay to?
Okay, you see, we have about six types of scan plans. We have gold, we have the bronze. So we determine amount we want to choose. So if you want gold as a single person, you pay 61 cedis. If you have a family, maybe you and your mother, that is almost 120. That varies as it is.
Sure. So thank you very much, Star Life Insurance, not assurance. Okay. So you heard the representative of Star Life Assurance, and they say protecting you and your family's future. Now, finally, let me go to the DBS Industries Limited stand where I've spotted some beautiful ladies. Could you talk to me, please? My name is Mona Lisa. What's your name?
My name is Kalyan.
Okay, so please, I know you're representing DBS Industries and you have always been consistent, especially when we have the Habitat Fair. This year, what special thing do you have for patrons?
This year, we are actually having in fact, when you come to purchase our goods or our material, we will give you a 10% discount. Okay, a 10% discount. That's the good news. And then once we have, DBS, we will just say that this is a chance in Papa Fear. In fact, we are selling a very good product. When you talk of the materials and the markets and those things, the open markets, ours is the best. In fact, we have the best qualities.
Hold on, could you please show me around some of your products? Because I spotted roofing sheets and I would like to have a feel of them. These smaller ones, they are quite hard. Yes.
The Euro tiles. Yes, these are the Euro tiles. You know, with the Euro tiles, when we did the installation for Euro tiles, we have the wood work is slightly different from the ones for the long spine. Those are the Euro tiles. This is what we call the Euro tiles. So this is different from the long spine.
Okay, so and I also heard something about it being resistant to water and all that.
Yes, it's correct. It's correct. Yes.
And let's move to the other roofing sheets that you have here. Wow. I'm impressed with what I am seeing.
Well, our film's Mona Lisa Frimpong giving us the latest from the Republic Bank Love FM's Habitat Fair. But of course, we'll be watching the space and bringing you some updates from the Ashanti region. And that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. I am Blessed, so then log on to myjoyonline.com. Lots of stories there for you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.